Unlike while loop, the termination condition in case of do while loop is checked at the end of each iteration. You can see that this is do while loop and we have checked the condition. We need to check the condition at the end of each iteration here, whereas in case of while loop the condition is checked at the beginning of each iteration. Now sometimes in programming we need to execute the loop without checking the condition at the very beginning. There are situations when this is required. In such cases, do while loop is preferable. You can see that in case of do while loop we just start executing the loop body, and at the end of the first iteration the condition is checked. If the condition is false, then the loop terminates, otherwise it gets back to the beginning. And in case of while loop, since the condition is checked at the beginning, so if the initial condition is false, then the while loop is never executed, even not for once. But in case of do while loop, even if the initial condition may be false, but still the loop is going to execute at least once. Although both these loops are going to print the hello world for 3 times, but do while loop is specifically required when we need to check the condition at the end of each iteration. Now situations are there where this kind of requirements are needed. In such cases we will be using do while loop. Here is the program that prints hello world 3 times using do while loop. Now one thing that, as a note, you need to put a semicolon here at the end of the do while loop that terminates the while here. Otherwise, if you do not put the semicolon, then the compiler is going to be confused do while with the while. Now the compiler is going to consider this as a beginning of while loop, and so this do doesn't have a while. Compiler will think that this return 0 is under this while. So obviously we need to terminate while here in order to make it part of do. So I'm going to execute this to print hello world for 3 times. It's going to work fine. Yes, it is. Here is an example where do while loop is exclusively required to handle the situation. In this program, the user is supposed to input age, and the program is going to test whether the age is teenage or not, and this thing is going to be repetitive, not for once, but the user will be asked for the option to continue. Now if the user chooses to continue, then it will ask for another age. Now if the user don't want to continue, so by inputting no, then the program terminates. So it will iterate over and will ask for age. As long as user chooses to continue, it will continue to test the age, whether the age is teenage or not. So let me just do this for a single age, then I will just make it iterative by using do while loop. So first of all, I'm asking the user to input the age, and I'm taking it in the variable age. Now we need to test if the age is teenage or not. Say age is greater than equals to 13 and age is less than equals to 19, then it should print that yes, it is teenage. Otherwise it should print that no, this is not teenage. So this is going to be executed only once, but we want to make it repetitive. That means after check an age, it should ask the user whether the user would like to continue with some other age or not. So we need to put this section in a loop. Now there is no particular number of times. As long as user wants, then this thing should continue. So that means after completing one execution, we need to ask the user for their option. Do you want to continue? Say yes or no. That means user can input either yes or no. So I need to take this in a variable, in a character variable. Now y is a character, n is a character. In order to keep characters, we need to declare variable using char. Someone pronounce as char, I pronounce it as char. Okay, so I'm giving it as response. So the name of the character variable is response, and I am going to take the value here at the variable response. Okay, so the response is taken here. Now if the response is yes, it should get back here and ask for the age once more. It should iterate to line number 8. For that we need to put this whole thing in a loop, something like this. If we are using while loop, then we should write something like this, just for a response equals to y, or response equals to capital Y. That means user may give small y or capital Y. So this thing is going to be something like this. But now the problem is that since we are using while loop, at the very beginning the response contains garbage, and here while comparing with the lowercase y or uppercase y, the response is going to fail for most of the cases, because it's very much unlikely that the garbage value is going to be equal with y. Now if you are using character constants, it should be enclosed with single quote. So since we are using character constants, I have enclosed it with single quote. If it is a string, then that should be enclosed in double quotes. I'll be discussing string and characters individually later on. Okay, so we just cannot write while loop here, because the response is going to get the value only after this scanf. You cannot compare response with y unless and until this scanf is executed. So here, for the very first time, we don't have a value for response to compare with lowercase y or capital Y or uppercase Y. So we need to at least execute the section under the while loop at least once before going for the checking. So this has to be executed at least once so that the value of response is taken. So here the while loop is inappropriate. So here the do while loop is very much appropriate. I can write the do while loop here. So if I write the do while loop, the control enters into the do while loop without having any checking, and I'm putting the checking here. So the loop straightforward starts with this printf statement, enter age, and then it goes on. After checking the first age, it will ask for the response, and response is taken, and then here the condition is tested. Now if the user has given y, it will actually get back here and will ask for the next age. Otherwise it will leave the loop. Let me just execute so that you can understand better. Here it is asking for the age. Now that means it comes here. So it's not checking. In case of do while loop, it just goes directly into the loop body. So it is asking for the age. I'm giving 15. That age is teenage. Okay, it's printing teenage. Now it's asking whether I want to continue or not. That means it is right now here, and it is waiting here at scanf. So I'm giving y and pressing enter. So it is asking for the next age. Okay, I'm giving 34. I'm giving y again, and I'm giving 67. No. So I'm giving no. I don't want to test anymore. So I'm coming out. So in such cases where we need to execute the loop body at least for once without having any test, then do while loop is much more appropriate.